To the tragedy out west, we're still learning more about the suspect in the Colorado shooting who made his first court appearance yesterday. Attorney and legal expert Brian Claypool joins us now. So Brian, first of all, let's talk about the possible charges. Will the first-degree murder and hate crime charges stick, and what's the potential punishment for both of those charges?
Hey, Arthel, great to be with you, and happy Thanksgiving, even amid all these tragedies.
Yeah.
With respect to first-degree murder, those are clearly going to stick. There's no question about it. And this shooter in Colorado is going to spend the rest of his life in jail. But I think there's something here that's more symbolic that needs to be, there needs to be a charge of a hate crime. A hate crime is when somebody carries out an injury or causes injury to somebody else based on an actual or perceived bias. Here, it's based on sexual orientation. The key word there, Arthel, is perceived. Actual means, for example, the shooter admits, hey, I'm anti-gay, I don't like gays. I don't think we're going to have that here. But I saw a friend that indicated that this shooter had made some homophobic remarks. And you can look then on social media, for example, to see if he was on any online groups that are anti-gay. But look, the fact that he targets a gay nightclub is an inference that he had a perceived bias against gay folks, and they should charge him with hate crime.
And then, Brian, meanwhile, you've got his attorneys who claim that the shooter is non-binary and wants to be referred to as they. So does this seem like a ploy to skirt the hate crime charges? I mean, would defense have to prove a history of this non-binary identity?
Yeah, great question. I think this is just a ruse. It's a pretext to try to protect this guy from a hate crime charge. I mean, again, you can go back and look at, for example, social media. I mean, if this guy's non-binary, then there should be something out there that proves that. But I think this is just to try to protect him from the hate crime charges. I mean, think about it, Arthel. You just saw a shooting at a Walmart. I'm a survivor of the Las Vegas shooting. I was in a concert. I mean, if you're not biased, then you would go anywhere and shoot people at a movie theater. He chose a gay nightclub, so he's got a daunting task ahead of him.
But if you're saying the first-degree murder charges will stick, why are they trying to get away from a hate crime charge?
The hate crime charge is extremely important because we've seen an onslaught over the years of
excuse me, Brian, I understand. I beg your pardon. I understand why it's important, but what I don't understand is why his attorneys are trying to get away from that. It appears.
I mean, they're trying to get away from that, I think, because of the penalty. I mean, really, it doesn't make any sense because he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life anyway. So maybe it's just a symbolic gesture, but it's not going to make any difference in the amount of time that he'll never see the day of light again.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that for me. And listen, sadly, of course, nothing will bring back the deceased, and the burden on those families is just unimaginable. On the other hand, like you just told us, I mean, you survived the Vegas mass shooting, and you know firsthand the emotional trauma that's attached. So how can the families of the survivors of these recent tragedies begin to move forward?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So I went to therapy over 50 times after the Vegas shooting. I encourage anybody impacted by these shootings to get therapy. Talk about what you experienced, the fear, the trauma. Possibly you have self-guilt for surviving and not being killed. So number one, get therapy. Number two, don't try to compare yourself to the way you were before this shooting. I feel like my heart has been seared forever, Arthel. I mean, I'm managing my trauma, but for example, I still have physical symptoms 5 years later when I nod off to sleep. My body convulses sometimes because I'm still in fight or flight, even 5 years later. So what I would recommend is be kind to yourself, value life, take risks that you might not have taken prior to the shooting. And again, don't try to be exactly who you were before the shooting, because that's really going to be impossible.
Very important advice, wise words. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm glad you're getting on the other side of it, and I appreciate your time and your sharing your story, Brian Claypool, and your expertise as well. Yeah. Thank you, and I'm going to tell you happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. You too.
Yeah, absolutely. Molly?